Hi, this is Numeric Citizen. In this video about Micro.blog series, I want to share a few tips and tricks for consuming your Micro.blog timeline. Well, first, you might wonder what else could be easier than browsing your Micro.blog timeline. And I would say that yes, it's pretty simple, but you'll find out that if you know those tricks, you'll be able to be more efficient at consuming your timeline. And it might be easier for you to follow conversation, use bookmarks, and related things regarding those features. The first thing I want to say is that this video, the content of this timeline here is mine and it's not staged. So I don't know exactly what to expect from this timeline. So I'll refresh the timeline right now. I'm using Apple Safari as a browser. You might be using Firefox or Chrome or whatever browser you would like. But this one is Safari, and I don't think the tricks and tips will change depending of which browser you use. So this is the actual timeline that I'm browsing right now. The first thing I want to tell you about is about following conversation. Here's the post from Menton, one of the founder of Microblog. He talks about web mention will be ignored by Microblog. So it might be interesting, this conversation might be interesting to follow. So here there's the conversation link. I could just click on this conversation here and then read the conversation itself. But the thing is, I prefer to maybe save it for later. So what I'll do is I'll right click on the link instead and I'll select open link in a new tab. So this way I'll be able to return to this conversation later. So I can also continue reading my timeline. The quality, this guy here is a iOS, a very proficient iOS developer. The quality of your app's onboarding is a reflection of what your users will expect from the rest of your app. Well, I find this quote to be very interesting. So what I'll do is I'll bookmark that one and I'll come back later to the bookmarks. So I continue to scroll down my timeline. Oh, there's this guy here, Basic Apple guy is a very, I mean, this guy is wonderful. He's very creative, talks a lot and do a lot of creative work related to Apple. And here there's a screen or a graphic that it just created, and it's called a MacBook Glow. I don't know what it is all about, but what I'll do is there is a conversation happening around this post, and I'll again right click on that and select open in a new tab. So this is the second tab that I'm opening right now. I'll come back to that later. This guy is following, is a publisher about Apple, mostly about finance related content about Apple. So there's this quote link post here. What I'll do is I'll bookmark this one, and you'll see what happens when you bookmark a post with a link inside the post. I'll continue. Oh, there's this thing that came out this week, the latest release of IA Writer, and this is release number 7. And there's again a conversation surrounding this release. It seems I bought IA Writer 10 plus years ago. I still get updates. I don't really understand it, but I appreciate it. A nice new touch is it will highlight anything you pasted in from the generated text from AI. So again, this is interesting. Right click on that and I'll open another tab for this conversation, and I'll come back to that later. This is Mike. This guy is from Portugal. Hi, Mike, if you ever watched my video. Yeah, so there's a huge um, earthquake in Philippines just right now. And then I'll continue and go down and expand the timeline by hitting the show more button at the bottom. Oh, this is me where I responded to this guy. And what I'll do is I'll right click on this because I don't remember exactly what was my reply for, or maybe if there are more replies in this conversation, then I'll open this again in a new tab. So this is the fourth tab that I'm opening. So now what I'm going to do is I'll try to go back to the first tab that I opened here. This is about, this guy is talking about a children movie. This guy is replying, and Menton, oh, this is where Menton comes in and talk about web mention related to Mastodon, I guess. So yeah, this is something interesting. Then I'll close that. There's nothing, I don't have to intervene in this conversation. I'll close this tab. The other thing is this one about the MacBook Glow by the basic Apple guy. So there is a guy responding, MacGlow trademark. Did you take this? It's fantastic. So I could let this tab open and come back later. So if I do a refresh, I'll be able to see other replies that came after that. So I'll keep that one open. We never know. This here is a long conversation about switching to IA writer for my writing. Something doesn't feel right with Ulysses or Obsidian these days. I want something with the right balance and simplicity and features. Personally, I'm a big fan of Ulysses. I've been using IA writer back in the days, and I could then keep this conversation here because it seems to be a pretty hot debate about switching apps for writers. So I'll keep that open and I might come back later. And this is the one here about this. There was a reply. I had this here for someone talking about using Synology NAS. It was his best decision, tech decision in a long time. I currently have it running Plex and Pastebin and home surveillance system, Homebridge and everything. So this is about, they talk about the Synology, and I think it's the best NAS on the market. So I don't think there is more replies after mine. It was this morning, so I'll close this. So that's for the way I'm following conversation. So I can keep those tab open and then refresh, reload the page to see if there is any more replies to the conversation. Now I'll talk about the bookmarks because remember I did bookmark something earlier. So if I switch to the bookmark here, you'll see that this is the one I just bookmarked. And what I can do here is either hit on this link and go to the link that the guy is referring to. I could add a tag here, like he's talking about Apple. If I look back here, this is another the quote that I saved. I can type a quote, a tag here. I already have one. It's called quotes, and I'll update that. And this is about apps. I could add apps update. It could be also about design. This will be a new tag because it doesn't show up in the dropdown. So it's about design. And if I want to add something about this one and create a link post with that, I could just hit embed, then come back here, click new post, and then also I'll be able to paste that. If I want to see how it looks before writing my own comment about that, this is how it will look. So I can either add something here before, and I can add something after and post my actual link post. This is one of the use case for using bookmarks. So I'll drop that out, and also I can unbookmark this if I don't want to use it anymore, but I'll keep that because I really like the quote. Earlier today, I bookmarked this post from this guy, and you see there's this reader thing here where it means that the post was archived by Micro.blog. First, I'll try to see clear the cache tips. So what I can do is just hit this link and it will go to the archived version of the post. I can read that, and if I find something interesting, I could just um, highlight a portion of it and just click highlight here. So it says that there is one highlight saved for this. And again, if I click on that, I can create a new post here, right there. And if I want to see how it will look once it will be posted, it doesn't seem to work. I can add something before. If I hit preview, no, the preview doesn't seem to work, but this is another use case for using bookmarks with archive article, where you'll then be able to create link posts with highlights that you created for this archive version of this article or the post. So this is the way I'm using bookmarks for quotes, for reading maybe something that I want to read later. And this is another one in here, stop using AI generated images. Oh, that's interesting. So this is about AI. This is opinion. And I can read the post here. And I see that it's very short. And the reason for that is because the bookmark that I saved for this guy here is the actual post on Mastodon. It's not the article itself. So it's the reason why it's very, very short. So this is about the bookmarks. I kind of forgot one use case. One more use case for bookmarks is when you stumble upon a post from someone and you want to reply to this guy or to her, and you don't want to reply on the spot. You want to reply later. So this is an example here. I just refreshed the timeline, and this guy Simon Woods, which is a really nice guy, by the way. My microblog timeline is an ambience of its own, a pleasant read through even when I'm talking, a quick break, refreshing and restorative. Thank you to everybody I follow and those folks who I discover on a regular basis. So I can hit bookmark again, and if I go in the bookmark and I'm ready now to reply, you see that it's microblog is telling me that it is archiving, but it won't be long because there is no article tied to this. There is no link tied to this post. I can uh, set it tag reply, and I could reply right there, and it it's true. Microblog is a really nice place to be in this um, uh, busy world. And I can busy world can post that. And once my reply is posted, I can just simply unbookmark this and come back to my timeline. Another thing that I forgot to mention about bookmark, if I'm reading a bookmark in microblog and this one contains a link to an article, I might want to process that inside another app for some reasons. And what I can do here is right-clicking the link itself and going on the share. And then from there, I could simply save this to any box. So if I save that to any box, there is a this is the window where I can enter more details, select a tag, and mark that as a favorite. I'll click save as I switch back to any box. Here, I'll show the window. I have this item that I just saved. I can go from there and open the website, or I can also read that later by using, again, the share here and then sending it to Omnivore. So I could then read later and process the article, highlights, write notes within Omnivore if I prefer. So yeah, this is the last thing I wanted to say about bookmarks. One more thing now regarding conversations on microblog. When you reply to some people, you have to remember that sometimes you have to visit your mentions tab here on the behind below the timeline, because sometimes people will reply to you, but like a few hours later or even some days later. So visiting the mentions here is important, And again, this is a place where you might use the conversation button to kind of put yourself back in the context of the conversation. So this guy is telling me, hello, thanks so much for the video links, watching now. So I'll click on the conversation to remember what it was all about. So yeah, I was replying to this guy who just is making his debuts on Microblog, and I wanted to share the link to my video uh, about Microblog, and so he thanks me for that. So I can just hit here, and then you are welcome, and then click post. So this is important to come back and use mention so you keep track of all the conversations that are ongoing in your timeline. One more thing regarding consuming your microblog timeline is the fact that what I was showing before was done entirely in Safari browser, but with macOS Sonoma, you can create an app, a web app with a website, and so you can just visit the microblog timeline and go in the file menu and add. You can add the web app from there. So on the left here, this is actually the web app running, and it's exactly the same experience than using the website itself. On the right, this is the microblog native application running on the Mac OS. It's a bit different from a look and feel perspective, but it's basically the same functionalities that are available to you. For some reasons, though, I prefer to use the web version because I prefer the information density, and I have all the access to all the tools within my microblog account. So this is one of the main reasons why I prefer to use the web version, but in a web app package, if you will. So this is the last tricks I wanted to share with you about microblog and consuming your content on microblog. So that's it for today's video about microblog. Thanks for watching until the very end. Thanks for being there. If you don't subscribe to my YouTube channel, it's the time to do so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you for being there again, and see you guys for another one soon. Bye.